This is where you should say his name, but he's not saying it. So
he forgot my name. I just wanted to stop. That's why I was waiting. I'm like, is he gonna say it? Is he gonna say it? He doesn't know my name. He knows me for so many years. How dare you?
She's showing love, give me all the raw energy. Don't stop, go ahead, get it in. Jump, knock, let me in.
And now the Uncut Podcast, presented by Joe and Theo.
Hello, everybody, and welcome to yet another episode of the Uncut Podcast. And guys, on today's episode, I think we might have a bit of a more serious topic because we are touching a bit of a touchy subject over here. We're going to be talking about Disney. When we're not going to be talking about Disney as necessarily a company, you know, from the history of Disney and how it was invented, but really, we're going to be looking more specifically at why Disney is in hot water recently and why its fan base is somewhat turning on them based on the 2023 results of the box office. It's a topic that both me and Joe think is very interesting to speak about and something that we're both, you know, opinionated on, and we want to kind of discuss it. So without any further ado, my name is Theo, and I'm joined here by my incredible co-host Joe. Joe, how you doing, man?
Oh, I'm doing great. It's good to be back on a podcast with you. And today we're going to be talking about a lot of I wouldn't say controversial subjects, but might be a bit controversial to some people, but nonetheless, it's going to be a very interesting episode, I think, and can't wait to get started.
Yeah. I wouldn't say controversial. I'd say touchy, for sure.
Touchy controversial, subject. Same shit. Different words, same shit.
So kind of what I alluded to, Disney has been in hot water in like the past couple of years. They've been in incredibly hot water. And I just want to really pass it on to you before kind of starting this off. Have you been aware of what's been happening with Disney recently?
Theo, my good friend, as you've known me for the last 10 years, then by now you should know I know absolutely nothing about what's going on with Disney right now. My head is so far away from that I really don't pay attention. I know they got into a bit of hot water with the Florida governor and over, I think it was like transgender comments or something like that. But to be honest with you, no, I haven't really been following along about what's been going on.
And that, ladies and gentlemen, is how the Uncut Podcast is run.
Yeah, exactly.
Right,
most people don't know this, but I just kind of show up once a week, just pop on, hear my voice, get a little sad, and then leave for the next week.
So, back to a bit of the topic. Disney has been in kind of hot water, really. I would say, in like of an overview, they've really been in hot water with regards to the casting choices for certain actors and actresses in specific roles, and also they've been in hot water in terms really of, I would say, the more inclusive messaging, the more woke transition, you know, the more inclusive transition that they've been taking in their films most recently. And we really started to see that when Disney kind of took over, you know, I would tend to say Star Wars, when they bought Star Wars from George Lucas. And since then, I mean, they've been getting, you know, they've been transitioning, to be completely honest, to a more inclusive kind of scope in their films. But their fan base and a lot of people around that have been reacting extremely negatively to it. And on this part one, I really kind of want to discuss why. I want to discuss really why people are getting pissed off at Disney, and kind of I want to bring up some, you know, some of the most recent controversies that have happened. And I think a great place to start, because I think there's two reasons primarily why this is happening. First has to do with horrible writing. So the characters that they're writing for are not necessarily good characters with good character development. And on the contrary, kind of feels like a, you know, subliminal political messaging that people are kind of getting pissed off at in a way. And they're like, hey, this is entertainment. I'm supposed to go here to get entertained, not to get, lectured on something. And the second thing, I think the best to speak about what's happening in the second perspective, look at what happened recently with Snow White and Rachel Ziegler and the backlash that occurred there.
Okay, but let me ask you a question. So because like I said, I'm not very up to date on this type of stuff, which again, great preparation on my end. But so you mean to tell me like Disney's been getting a lot of backlash for who they've been casting as, like the actors, like the actors themselves, not the roles they play, but the actors themselves, they've been getting specific backlash over it. So like they have I'm gonna use Snow White because I know who you're talking about, Rachel Ziegler. because she's black, she's playing I guess what's been a predominantly white character in
Latina.
Snow White or Latino,
Latina.
whatever. It's a Latina. If I offended people, I'm sorry. But she's basically playing a predominantly known as a white character. So people are getting like upset about that.
So they're upset about a couple of different things. So the profiling, so the color, the skin color, it's upsetting some people. I
Okay.
won't say it's not for sure, but I think the biggest backlash, especially in the Snow White case, was really what was said about the movie by Rachel herself. So essentially, this whole backlash happened. Rachel did an interview, I think, on a red carpet. Don't remember where specifically, but it's a very good interview. If you go and you write on YouTube Rachel Ziegler controversy, it's literally everywhere. There's like thousands of videos about it. And she basically called the old Snow White weird, creepy, not appropriate, and all of those things that aggravated and angered people. And essentially, people just right away just started ripping her all over all over the internet. And there's two things here that we're going to talk specifically about whether what she said was maybe right or wrong. In my opinion, I mean, that's not how you handle, public relations from that perspective to begin with, right? And on the second thing, I think it's really because people are just sick and tired of Disney.
Okay.
And that's kind of a boiling point. You know what I mean?
Okay, but let me just tackle the first point that you were talking about, which is the comment she made. Like, Rachel Ziegler's like, what, 21 years old?
23, 22.
Okay, 23, 22. So what, when she made these comments, she was like, what, 20, let's say? 21? Because this has been in development for quite a bit of time. Was it within the last year?
Yes.
Okay, so, and she's still a kid. I'm sorry, like, she's barely legal to drink in the United States. And as we're talking about this, I'm just going to pull it up just to know her age. Rachel Ziegler. As you can tell, we can come prepared.
Very.
Yeah, she's 23. Okay, so she made these comments most likely when she was 22. Listen, at the end of the day, like you said, if it was on a red carpet, okay, like, listen, maybe it was in the heat of the moment and she said something stupid, which is understandable for someone that young to do. And she's giving her honest opinion on, not on the movie, but maybe on the story of Snow White itself, which, in all honesty, if you look at it from today's perspective, she's maybe not entirely wrong when she says what she says. And honestly, when you look at it and all from today's eyes, she's kind of right. It's not the most how do I say it? No, screw it. It's not the most politically correct story for 2024 with everything that's changed since the original story was told. Now, depends which story she's talking about, because there's two different versions of Snow White from what I recall. There's one from the 1800s, right? 1812, whatever it was. And then there was the retelling of it by Disney in like 1900s. So if she's talking about the 1812 story, yeah, listen, that one's a bit
that one's extreme.
That one's a bit extreme. There's a lot of stuff that goes on. And honestly,
Snow White is surrounded by criminals in one version.
Yeah, it's surrounded by criminals. There's a couple
pretty extreme.
There's beheadings, like it's a story written in 1812, and most people in 1812 couldn't read, right? Yeah. And we're also talking about a period of time that was like, hey, 1812 is before modernized slavery. Like, not, I shouldn't say modernized before modernized slavery, but before the revolution in America, before the slave revolution in the States.
The
Civil War. God, what the hell? Yeah, before the Civil War in the United States. So you're talking about a story that predates the Civil War. So let that speak volumes on itself, right?
Yeah, well, she's not really talking about the 1800s. She's talking about the Disney remake in 1938. And that's what aggravated people, right? Because honestly, let's be completely frank. Everyone who got pissed off has never even heard that Snow White was a Brother Grimm's fairy tale written in 1812.
No, most people weren't alive for 1938 either nowadays. I'm sorry, it's kind of like a fact. Let's be honest.
That's what I'm trying to say. So she was speaking about the 1938 film, right? What in the 1938 film was so controversial? Because if she's speaking about the prince, right? Well, you have to actually look at what the story means. You have to look at what the messaging behind the story is.
I don't know if she was referring to the prince or the seven dwarves. Now you have to remember the seven dwarves are kind of based. But
Hold on.
I'm just giving context, right? So the seven dwarves are
Yeah.
basically it kind of it's the seven dwarves are basically named after moods. You know, grumpy, happy, sleepy, whatever the hell they are. And Snow White's a woman, so the way you could kind of look at it, it's describing the menstrual cycle of a
Not
woman.
really.
Now, listen, I'm just listen. This is the internet. I'm just going off what people in
Yeah,
that have nothing
but
better
listen,
to do interpret things.
but listen. My on the internet, I can find people talking about the Earth being flat.
Yeah, of
Right.
course you can.
So
Doesn't mean they don't have an opinion.
doesn't mean it's actually yeah, but it doesn't mean it's flat.
No, it
So that's
doesn't.
what we're trying to what I'm trying to discuss here, and this is why it's important in part one, right? Because people might have opinions, that doesn't mean it's correct. That doesn't mean it's the right what actually the messaging is. The seven dwarves are nothing more than fictional characters, and they actually serve a very important purpose in the story of Snow White. First of all, let me pass it on to you very quickly. Do you know what the core story of Snow White is? So what the core meaning of the actual story of Snow White is?
Theo, I think me and you had this conversation a while back. When it comes to Disney fairy tales, I don't know
You have no
shit.
clue.
I don't know
Okay,
shit.
so I'm
I don't
gonna
know
go-
shit.
I'm gonna go-
Dude, honestly, I get Snow White and Cinderella mixed up every freaking time. Every
right.
time. Because I just know in every single one, there's the same concept. The prince kisses a girl and they get married and it's happily ever after and nobody stays for the divorce. That's all I know.
Nobody stays for the divorce.
No, story's written, man. You don't have to, there's no part two. You never realize that? There's no part two to these
Thank
movies?
you, thank you very much,
Books,
guys. That's
whatever.
it for the conversation.
That's it, guys. Ladies and gentlemen,
That's
Joseph's take.
That's it.
Joseph's take on fairy tales. Everybody's happy now.
There's nothing more to discuss about Disney. There's no divorce.
There's no divorce, man. You never realize that? They never argue. They never fight. Just happily ever after. That's the way it ends. You never visit Snow White 6 years after when she's got 3 kids and they can barely pay rent, huh? So at that point, they need the 7 dwarves just to keep. Okay, I'm gonna stop talking, but just to keep the lights on, man.
This is not going
It's
your way.
sleeping. Like, think about it. They just kind of continue the story from 1812. If you really want to look at it that way.
Lord almighty. They're making an accurate
And
recreation.
just like
And
that, Uncut has been
We're
canceled.
We're canceled.
But yeah,
All right. So let me go on a small rant here. So, jokes aside, really, Snow White. What's the main meaning? The main meaning is that good will prevail over evil. So, vanity will not prevail, but kindness will. So, and that's what Snow White is. Snow White is really a pure, kind-hearted person that gets essentially, in the most simple way, screwed over by the evil witch.
bro, isn't she unconscious for like half of it?
No,
Oh, that's
she's
no,
unconscious
that's
for, like,
Cinderella.
towards the end.
I
That's
don't know.
Cinderella.
Tells you.
No,
all.
not
Yeah.
even. Is it Cinderella?
Dude, I don't know. I remember somebody being unconscious for a majority of this type of stuff. You sure? Didn't she eat? Didn't she eat the
Sleeping
apple?
Beauty,
No.
genius.
No, yeah, it was Sleeping
It's
Beauty's
in
woman.
the title.
No, Snow White. Doesn't she eat the apple and she goes unconscious?
Yeah, but it's not for half the movie. It's like for like 10 minutes.
Wow. It's 10 minutes too long. Can I tell you?
But to go back to what the meaning is, right? So the meaning is that this is a pure soul, a very kind-spirited human being, right? That gets essentially done dirty by someone who's evil, right? Because that evil person feels, that Snow White is better than her in a way. Okay.
Yeah.
So what ends up happening, these 7 dwarves that are there that mean nothing in terms of menstrual cycle. Nothing. I'm sorry. If you have a character named Sneezy and he can't stop sneezing, I'm sorry. What part of the menstrual cycle do women just sneeze constantly? Personally, I don't know. Right. Exactly. So they mean nothing. What they really serve as a purpose is, in my opinion, and if you really look at the story, they're essentially 7 people living in a forest that go and help and essentially shelter a poor woman, and that poor woman helps them in reciprocity to essentially feed them, make them feel good about themselves, essentially build them up as characters, and then when she does get poisoned by the apple, their care and compassion for that woman because she was so kind to them is what pushes the prince essentially, right, to go and save her. So
Okay.
they actually serve a very important purpose. And if you do Google what the meaning is, if you do Google what the meaning in general of the 7 dwarves is, most say that they represent earth, air, fire, water, light, shadow, and magic. Now, if that's accurate, I don't know. Right? But that's what they're there for. And to tackle the second thing in terms of, the creepiness of the prince is there for one reason. The prince is there to showcase two aspects: love at first sight and true love. Love at first sight, the fact that he saw her for the first time, doesn't know who she is, he's in love with her. And true love, the fact that he's willing to try and save her. And I'm sorry, both of those aspects are characteristics that are very noble. I don't think there's anything wrong in these characteristics. Now, I will say this. If Rachel Ziegler tried to say that, hey, maybe there's a better way of representing the kind of modern, so to speak, the modern way of representing these noble things, yeah, maybe she's right. There's better ways. We're in 2024, right? So that's what I'm thinking.
Okay.
Right. And that's what I'm here to discuss. Right. So that's, I think, what's pissing off people. And also, if we were going to talk about creepy, I'm sorry, we're talking about a fairy tale here. Right. You want to talk about creepy? Go look at Beauty and the Beast. 17-year-old, 18-year-old girl goes to a haunted mansion, falls in love with Chewbacca. Okay? Let's start there. That's bestiality, my guy. Okay? You want to talk about The Little Mermaid? A fucking fisherman falls in love with a fish woman. My guy.
No,
If
okay.
we want to talk about creepy,
Hold
we can
on.
talk about a bunch of things.
He wasn't a fisherman. He was a prince. Okay, just get that straight.
Whatever.
They're all prince. You want to go talk?
Human being
Wait.
falls in love with a fish lady. Period.
Okay. Then you also have what? Prince Charming kisses the frog, or
There's another one. There's another one. So what I'm trying to say is the creepiness aspect, it's a fairy tale. It's everywhere. It's littered. You want to talk about creepy? Do you want to talk about the sexual innuendos that exist in all cartoons that are written to essentially please the adult audience and the parents?
yeah. Well, I mean, we could if you
Exactly.
really want to.
So it's everywhere. It's everywhere, right? So that's kind of what rubbed people the wrong way, because the messaging behind Snow White is noble. The messaging really is just that she's a good person and she wins just because she's a good person. So if you want to win and go from being in a forest to being a princess, which is a huge split, be a good person.
Yeah, but I don't think they're talking about. Okay, look, I get your point of view that
Right.
Snow White's a good person, but what they're arguing is not the Snow White character. They're arguing about the story of Snow White itself. I mean, listen, if you really want to go into the deep dive of it, and you can correct me if I'm wrong at any point during this, Snow White, right? She gets adopted by 7 fucking strangers, 7 fucking dwarves in the middle of nowhere while she's asleep, and she wakes up and they make her the princess. Okay.
Mhm.
The queen on the wall, who's the fairest of them all, and it shows a photo of Snow White. That then she goes to break into Snow White's house and then poisons her. Right? The original story from Brothers Grimm is basically poison her, tie her up, try to choke her, and then stab her with a poison comb. But we'll go for we'll use the 1912 version, and we'll go with 1938, whatever. So she poisons her with a poison apple, and she falls asleep.
Yeah.
Right. Followed up now by a random prince who doesn't know who the fuck she is at all. Right. That has to travel everywhere and just gives her a random kiss to wake her up. All right. Question that as you will in today's society. They get married, and then the queen shows up and tries to destroy the wedding.
Yeah.
Right? That's the story of Snow White. So, yeah, I get what you're trying to say. Snow White is a good person, blah, 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 blah. But when you look at the story in of itself, okay, you're looking at abduction. If you really want to look at it that way.
Whoa, hold on. 2 seconds. What's the whole meaning behind all of the events you just said? The evil queen loses, so she's evil, vanity, but the good person wins.
Yeah, well, I mean, it would suck if it's
Because
the other
she's
way
a good
around.
person. Because she's a good person.
Yeah, because she's a good person.
That's the meaning.
The good person did a bunch of stupid shit to get there anyways.
Do you want to talk about stupid shit? Because we can point to absolutely everyone in the world about stupid
Let's talk about the chain of events that led her to get there. Like, yeah, good job. The good person wins. But let's talk about the string of events of poor decision making it took to get to that point. So, yeah, vanity, I guess, if you want to put it that way. But you can also talk about decision making and how poor it was. But I don't want to stay on the subject too long. But I get your point of view when you say like, okay, it's about the good person winning, and I understand Rachel Ziegler's point of view where she's also trying to say like, hey, look, like the story's not exactly the greatest in the world either, and she makes a good point. She does make a good point. But I come back to this. It's more like, how do you lead? How do you have your leading actress that's going to be starting in this role say this stuff on national, maybe not national TV, but like on a national interview? Like, how do you how do you let that slide if you're Disney? How do you not have control checks? How do you not have people telling her like, hey, like give her little keynotes for the interview or pre-screen the interview and tell her like, hey, why didn't you say this, say that, say this, say that? So it's a bit weird, especially Rachel Ziegler, that's been with Disney for quite a bit of time as well.
Yeah, well, that's the thing. That's exactly it. And that's kind of the problem, right? Rachel pissed off a lot of people because, again, you have a movie. First of all, this thing has existed since 1938. So there are generations and generations and generations of fathers showing it to their daughters. Daughters wanting to be this princess for, say, Halloween, right? And all of this thing. And you have this young actress that comes out and essentially insults it and says, hey, listen, it's creepy, it's this, it's that, and essentially indirectly says to all those parents, all those daughters, all of these people that have essentially taken the messaging, the noble messaging, and the fairy tale and kind of wanted to pass it on to their kids as, hey, you're creepy parents. You're shit parents for doing this. And here's the thing. I am putting blame on Rachel because, yes, okay, she is young, right? But these words did come out of her mouth. She made the conscious decision to say these without thinking twice of the repercussions. But at the same time, like you correctly said, I'm putting blame on Disney's PR team. Seriously, like you didn't think that if someone comes out and is the head of the front run of a mainline movie that you're going to come out and release, you're not going to train her with PR? You're not going to tell her what to say? Especially when you're going to do something as wild as start tweaking and changing the story that people love? Like you saw the backlash, Disney, with Star Wars. You saw it. You saw the backlash with The Little Mermaid. Where what you didn't change the story. You just changed the actress. The actress isn't white like in the original cartoon. She's African American. And people lost their marbles, right? So you know that the tiniest of things right now that you're doing, Disney, is pissing off people, and you don't media train your actress. So, right? So I agree with you. It's how did this slip by Disney? Right?
Yeah, I would say maybe they just didn't know that an interview was going to take place like that, but at the same time, I kind of highly doubt that. Not when you're Disney, you know what I mean? You're one of the largest media companies in the world. Like you should know better. But like you kind of alluded to a good point where you were saying like people were kind of in uproar about specific ethnicities playing other ethnicities, or maybe ethnicities that we grew up always assuming were the norm, right? You mentioned it, Cinderella. You mentioned it, Little Mermaid being mostly Caucasian, being played by an African American. Star Wars, I don't know what the whole big deal was about that. I think maybe you know more. Bad writing?
Bad writing.
Well,
yeah.
Fair enough. But
and a bunch of other topics, which we're going to get into right now. Keep going.
Yeah. But no, I'm just trying to say, for people that give shit about a character being a certain ethnicity opposed to the one that they're, I would say, like, accommodated to.
Yeah.
I think that's bullshit. I think that's bullshit.
Yeah, no, that. Yeah.
And if it hurts people's feelings, well, then maybe you should grow the fuck up and understand how the world works. I don't know. I didn't see a problem wrong with it, and I grew up with Little Mermaid being white. And maybe I'm woke, but to be honest with you, when a story is consistent about a mermaid that lives in the Caribbean island, and a fish that is, I guess white, and a crab or lobster
crab that has a Jamaican accent.
Yeah, and a lobster that's Jamaican, and a bird that can freaking talk. Listen, I don't think it freaking matters what color they are. I think there's more things going on than that, or people that get upset about. I think it was actually no. J.K. Rowling did get upset when they put like a trans character in the Harry Potter game. It's like, listen, you created a universe where there's fucking talking horses. I don't think it's so outside the realm of possibility for a trans woman to be in this universe. All things considered, that you have a fucking dog with 3 heads. You have a guy that can come back from the dead and show up on the back of other people's skulls. Like I don't
talking hat.
Yeah, like exactly. Like that's what I'm trying to say. Like there's more things at play here than it's a trans woman playing a character that's predominantly male or predominantly female, and you're just like who gives a shit? Like, look at the world they created. It doesn't freaking matter. Like, but just before we go on to the next subject that I want to talk about, is like Umbrella Academy, right? Where they had to make Ellen Page previously into a male. It's like there's so much that goes on in that universe.
Yeah.
Who gave a shit?
Yeah.
Just like, who gave a shit? But that's just my point of view, my little rant.
Look, so I think you brought up something very interesting. It's like, genuinely, who cares, right? You go into Star Wars, who cares? You got blue aliens speaking, for fuck's sake, right? Who cares? But there's a problem here, and I think what you're seeing is a visceral reaction from the fan base to how Disney has been handling this new inclusivity movement. And that really started with Star Wars, and I alluded to Star Wars with bad writing. The writing in Star Wars, if you really look at it or you try and dissect it, it's less about the story of someone coming of age or someone essentially finding out how powerful they are and going through trials and tribulations, right? Which is what Luke Skywalker was, what Anakin Skywalker was, what essentially Rey Skywalker should have been, right? But it's more of a political campaign. It's more of kind of what I alluded to at the beginning of like, hey, you're all wrong for not accepting this, or all wrong for all of this. And it feels more like you're lecturing the audience as opposed to creating a nice story where people are interested in following it. And that's what people are getting pissed off at.
Sorry,
they're getting pissed off at being lectured.
Not to cut you off. Is it Rey Skywalker or Rey Palpatine? Was she not Palpatine's daughter?
At the end, no, she was, but at the end of episode 9, she was called Skywalker. So she's called technically Rey Skywalker.
Okay, and I want to get back to your other points that you were saying, and I just want to brush on something. So shitty writing in the Star Wars series. Listen, outside of the original 3,
the prequels weren't that good either.
The prequels were just equally shit. I mean, they brought us Jar Jar Binks, for fuck's sakes. Like,
I love him.
Nothing.
I love that character. I don't care what you say. I love him.
It's me. Listen, so like I Misa don't want no trouble, but that's what I'm trying to say. It's like the Star Wars writing predates Disney's takeover of Star Wars. Yeah. It was bad prior and it was bad after. Now you can choose which one's worse, the new trilogy or the prequels. I don't mind watching the new trilogy, but I hated watching the prequels.
Hey, listen, I like them. I like the prequels. I didn't have a problem really with the new trilogy that came out. Episode 7 was fun. Episode 8 was like
discontinued. Yeah. They
it
both
didn't make any sense. And episode 9 was fan service to kind of
make up for the
make up for the big drama that happened in episode 8. So it was really kind of, and that's what I'm trying to say. People are pissed off at Disney, and I think they're seeing a lot of these visceral reactions. Because the story writing is more of a political campaign.
It's
and
political.
People are like, well, hold on a minute. Like, I want to just see a good story. Why are you just shoving and telling
incest?
Me, like, why are you just, consistently
shoving incest?
Not incest.
But okay, no. Okay, but no. But do you not know how almost every single trilogy involves incest in a certain way? I think minus the original, not the original, minus the prequel. If the original story was incest, and then the new one was also incest, if you look at it, because if I'm not mistaken, Rey and what's the guy's name? Adam Driver. Are they not related?
Yeah, they are related, but when did they have sex?
No, they didn't, but they always had feelings for each other. That's what I'm trying to get to. It's like, I don't understand.
They didn't?
Yeah, but dude, there's always sexual tension between. Yes, they did.
They hated each other.
No. Rewatch the 9th episode. I think you're very mistaken because I've seen it not too long ago.
Oh shit! Yeah.
come away with me. You can be better. No, we forget
Oh
that
my
line.
God.
Yeah, don't worry. Me too. I try to block off the incest in every fucking Star Wars trilogy.
But at the end of the day, that's what people are getting pissed off at. In all honesty, that's like jokes aside, that's what people seem to be getting pissed off at, right? So, kind of another question, and this is going to move to part 2 really of all of this. It's if Disney genuinely wants to essentially become more inclusive in the writing, right?
Mhm.
And they're taking, their old Disney classics in terms of fairy tales and they're doing them live action and they're making them inclusive in live action. Fine. Why don't they bother creating new characters? Why don't they bother creating new writing? Why don't they bother creating new stories? Take the core messaging, right? But just create a new story.
Well, the answer is
Why?
simple. It's time and money. I mean, why would you? Okay,
Thank you.
why
Exactly.
would you go through the effort of creating a new story, of hiring? I would assume hiring a bunch of writers to produce a new story when you can just go into your vault and remake something that's that can bring nostalgia back for most people, and maybe
Exactly.
spin it a little bit modernized. Maybe put, like you said, change up the ethnicity of some of the characters by the casting, whatever have you. But for the most part, just keep it the way it is.
Exactly. So you hit it on the head. You hit the nail on the head. It's money. So it was efficient. It's efficient for Disney. But there's a problem here. It is efficient. But you've pissed off your fan base to the point that in 2023 you haven't turned a profit on any of your films. So is it really working? Is it really functioning? And this is getting to the final point that I want to allude to, that really this whole movement that Disney has been doing to be inclusive is not genuine at all. Right? So, like some people think. Right? It's not genuine. It's all about the money. Right? But to come back to the point that we're having right now, yeah, it's profitable because obviously to make a movie already costs an arm and a fucking leg. To market a brand new movie, I told you this the other time, it's about the same amount of money you'll invest into the production you'll spend on marketing. So yeah, it makes sense. Cut back on marketing, have something that's already done. It's more efficient, it's faster, but it's not working. Already Snow White was supposed to release in 2024. With the backlash, they pushed it back to 2025. So they can let the backlash cool down. Little Mermaids, with the backlash that happened, right? Because there was backlash, although it's stupid backlash, there was backlash, it barely broke even. And if you look at all the releases in 2023, none of them made a profit. They all lost money. And now, I want to play a little game with you.
Oh boy.
Can you name me the movies and how much they lost about?
Okay, well, I'm gonna go with, because I live on the internet, so I'm gonna go with the internet answers, because I feel like that's probably the right way of looking at this. So I know the internet hated the Marvels, or
Oh, yeah.
Miss Marvels, whatever the hell they're called now.
Oh, yes.
I know they hated that with a passion. So that's got to be up there. I don't know if it's number one, but it's definitely in the top 5 of the worst losing films, because I know they put a
It's
lot of money
number
into
one.
that. It's number one.
It's number
Okay.
one. Yeah, it's number one.
Okay, that's number one. What else did they do that sucked? Give me a hint. Is there another Marvel movie on this list?
Not that I saw,
Okay.
but I'll give you. It has
Harrison
to
Ford
do-
had a movie, and I know that bombed.
You're close. You're close.
Harrison
You're
Ford.
close.
Indiana Jones.
There we go. There we
Okay,
go.
that's 2.
That's another
Jesus
big one.
Christ, there's 3 more to go. They had a movie called Wish.
Yeah.
I don't think
Yeah,
that
they
did
did.
well.
No, it didn't. It did
Is it on the
horribly.
list?
Yeah, it is. It's number 3.
Okay.
Just try and find one.
Not
more.
Little
Just try and
Mermaid.
find
Little
one more.
Mermaid is. I don't think Little Mermaid's on that list.
Little Mermaid actually turned a very tiny profit. It
Okay.
broke even just slightly, so it's not on the list.
Definitely not Guardians of the Galaxy. That brought in a good chunk.
Yeah.
Ant-Man. No, you said there was no more Marvel.
No.
What other movie did they come out with? Eddie Murphy, Haunted.
Haunted Mansion, yeah,
That's up there, isn't
there
it?
you go.
I think it's some
It's
big
number
actors for
4.
that one.
It's number 4.
I
So
wouldn't I
yeah,
wouldn't even know what number 5 is.
exactly. So there you go. Right. So it's not working. It's really not working. Because they're losing money constantly because they've pissed off their audience and their audience is starting to turn around and say, you know what? Forget it. I'm not gonna buy your your products. I'm not gonna go see them. And I think this is a bigger problem, right? Especially in the business of Disney, because we've talked about this and really, media is being consumed differently, right? And media is really has transitioned in the past couple of years to this whole, subscription based model. The Netflixes, the Hulus, the HBO Maxes, Disney Plus, right? But the thing is, the box office and the movies are still extremely important because they're a precursor. Because at the end of the day, when you're paying monthly subscriptions to a media company, what are you doing? You're paying them for their catalog, right? For their catalog of custom films and the catalog of films they have. So if the majority of the films that are coming out of a studio are being ransacked and hated on from the fan base and are bombing at the box office, that's obviously going to have results at the end in the subscription services where people are going to be like, yeah, I'm not going to pay $10 a month for Disney Plus. I think it's $10 a month if I'm not mistaken, right? Or maybe a little more,
I'm not subscribed, so
right? Exactly, but I'm not going to pay it because they have movies that I don't like. I just don't like their products. There's nothing appealing for me there, right? So, and that's been shown in their last quarterly results. And I know we're turning a little more financial now to the audience, but in their last quarterly results, they lost 1.3 million subscribers, my guy. That's a lot of subscribers, right? And this is in the time where Netflix stopped account sharing and people got pissed off that Netflix.
see, I'm gonna maybe to play a little bit of devil's advocate right now. 1.3 million subscribers isn't, depending on what your initial base isn't much. I mean, listen, it can be a lot of things. It can be people that
Yeah.
maybe had different accounts. Like there's a ratio to this, right? Like 1.3 million subscribers, maybe a portion of it might have been just inactive accounts that just kind of said screw it, that weren't using the platform anyways. So there's a plus minus ratio, and it's gonna sound stupid to say, but it's kind of like a YouTube channel, right? YouTube channels with 200. I'll give it to Mr. Beast just to say he is officially the most subscribed YouTube channel in the world.
Yeah.
But he has 266 million subscribers. He might lose 1.3 million subscribers a day and gain 1.3 million subscribers a day. You know what I mean? Like it all depends. So maybe some of them are just inactive. Some of them, just fall by the wayside. Maybe some of them just, change credit cards. And like I said, we're inactive. So who knows, man? Like I don't see 1.3 million being such a big number unless the total amount is something like 10 million subscribers total and 1.3 million lost. But if they have 200 million subscribers and lost 1.3 million, what's the, like, even for you have to say it's not a significant number to really make a difference.
Yeah, because you're looking at the overall statistic. But
Yeah.
then let's take a look at the stock price, how the stock price reacted. Well, since the past 3 years, the stock's down 50%. So there's something worrisome here about the company. So something that Disney is doing with this transition that they've been doing in order to make more money and to be more inclusive, to get more people in the seats, is boomeranging against them, right? Because if it was genuinely working, their box office wouldn't flop, right? Okay, subscribers, maybe it's not material, like you said. Maybe there's other factors. But why is the stock down 50%?
Well, that's more of a you question than a me question, but I can answer the question to the movie theaters, at least from the economical standpoint that I live in. Time to put my degree to use. No, but I mean, look, when you look at the economical standpoint, right? Movie theater, people going to the movies has dropped significantly over the last 4 years since COVID, and people were barely going to the theaters in 2019. So a lot of theaters did close down during that time frame, and they were barely surviving, and they had to shut down. Movies or going to the theater was already a dying breed way before any of this. So it makes sense that Disney would have lost money on movies if people are not going. And people are going to go, well, what about Barbie and Oppenheimer? Those made huge profits in theaters. Or the Marvel movies like Avengers Endgame and
Infinity War,
Guardians of the Galaxy. Spider-Man, like those, you can name 6 movies in the last year that probably made a profit.
Yeah.
6. You know how many movies come out a month that don't make profit? Like, movies to me, they go to theaters because it's a traditional art form. People still want to, some people still do want to consume movies on a big screen with popcorn in a theater. There's still that audience out there. Not as much, but there's still an audience out there for it, and enough for studios to put it out into theaters. But most people nowadays consume media differently. Consume media through streaming services. Consume media through illegal means. Hi, Torrent Pay.
Hi there. How you
hi
doing?
there. How you doing? But I'm just trying to say, is like people consume media so much differently nowadays than they used to back then. Most people are willing to wait for a movie to come out on DVD or VHS. In the past, VHS is a dead format, but than they are today. Because back then, right, to wait for a movie to go from theaters to VHS might take a year, and there was no other ways to consume it. Nowadays, you know, it's in theaters 2-3 months. It's out of theaters already on the platform.
Yeah.
So, you know, I went to go see Willy Wonka and Willy Wonka this past December, and by February it was already streaming on TV.
Yeah.
So they don't stay in theaters long enough anymore. So that's kind of my logic to why movies don't really make as much money as they used to 10 years ago.
Right. And that's kind of, it's like what we said. It's the whole consumption of media has changed. The thing that I see in terms of movies is they're a precursor. Again, you're paying for a subscription model. You're paying for the ensemble of products that are in that company's repertoire.
Yeah.
And if that is badly reviewed or is not liked by the audience, it's going to have repercussions on your subscribers.
Yes, 100%. It's going to have repercussions. But like we talked about too, that minus 1.3 million, it's based off how much.
You don't know.
Right?
Yeah, you don't know exactly.
And another thing I can even go to with Disney is keep in mind, though, they own a lot.
Yes.
Right? They're huge.
They're huge.
They own multiple studios, and not to mention they own ESPN. So I don't know what caused their stock to lose. Maybe it was the political battle in Florida that really caused the dip in their stock the most. But you have to keep in mind they own theme parks. Like they bleed money more than anything. When you really look at it, they make money too. But more time than not, they tend to lose money because of the amount of construction that's going on at their Disney parks, the amount of money they're spending on their studios to produce movies, the amount of money they're spending on entertainment factors and ESPN rights and television rights. Well, I'm just trying to say, I just want to make a point though.
Yeah.
They own ESPN, right? ESPN for 6 NFL games paid almost close to $1.3 billion. For six NFL games this year. So I like people that go, oh, Disney loses money to a certain degree. They do spend a lot.
Yes,
they do spend a lot.
That's for sure.
Is it profitable? I know you're going to get into that answer later, but I'm just trying to say from a perspective of an economist's point, yeah, they spend money, but that money's being reinvested into the company. Right. It's being to have television on ESPN, they have to go out and spend $1.3 billion to get NFL rights. Does that mean they bring in $1.3 billion worth of ads for people? I don't know. But they have a bunch of contracts. They have a bunch of talent signed. They have a bunch of studios that are producing movies and entertainment and games and all this type of stuff. And they have their theme parks that are consistently being renovated on a year-on-year basis. So when they lose money one year, they maybe make it back another year. There's a lot of factors at play for Disney, more than just a minus symbol. It's what they spend that money on and reinvest it into the company.
Exactly, because everything yields a profit. And that's the thing that's surprising to people. And I think, from my perspective, that's why the stock has dipped. Because they know how efficient Disney is as a company. They know how smart Disney is with their money. So they're seeing one division, which is the entertainment division. And that's the thing with movies. Movies will have repercussions to the theme parks, to the subscription services. Because why do people go to the theme parks? Because they want to see Mickey Mouse. Because they want to see Goofy. Because they want to see these characters. They want to see the princesses.
Because they want to get engaged, some of them.
Okay, listen.
And they have security guards push them off the stage.
Get off. Get out of here.
Oh, it's true. I don't know if you've seen the videos going around, but yeah.
No, I haven't. I
Oh,
haven't.
good for you.
But at the end of the day, bad movie results means that the audience isn't connecting with your product. It means that the audience is hating your product, and that will have repercussions to Disney's, theme parks. People will go less. They will have repercussions to their subscriptions. Maybe you're going to lose more subscriptions. And that's what investors are afraid of and why they're selling their stock. So this whole movement that seems to be happening against Disney because they're becoming more inclusive is actually working against them. So I want to change the conversation before closing off the podcast here. Why did Disney do this to begin with? If the money is starting to flow in the opposite direction, why are they doing this? Why are they still going like this? And I want to just ask you that question very quickly. Why do you think Disney is sticking and doing this despite the fact that it might have negative repercussions?
Well, if you want my honest opinion, I believe it's because they feel like in the long run, this is what's best suited for them. And I know you wanted to switch topics, but I always go to it. The theme parks will always be there because Disney sells nostalgia. They don't sell a product. They sell you memories, to quote unquote Disney, right? We sell memories. And that's kind of what they bank on the most. They bank on you growing up and you're going to have kids and you're going to remember all those times Disney was there in your life and you remember being a princess or a prince or a frog or a beast or liking an animal, for God's sakes.
Princess. Very nice.
I don't know how you grew up, man. It's 2024. And you might remember those memories, and so you might want to show your kids those memories, right? So maybe you will go get Disney Network to go show them the movies from your childhood, the original cartoons. Or maybe you're a kid nowadays, and maybe you want to show your kids what you grew up on, the modern Little Mermaid or the modern Snow White or Cinderella or whatever it is. So I understand Disney's motto at the end of the day. It's kind of like, listen, we sell nostalgia, we sell memories more than we sell a product. Or at least that's what they tell people, but in reality they sell a product. But
so I get your point. So one, I don't think it's that to begin with, and two, to just quickly touch on the point of nostalgia. Nostalgia only works if the memories are happy.
Yeah,
if you're pissing off your audience, nostalgia won't work that effectively.
But what's the percentage of people that are pissed off? That's what I don't understand, because it could be a small minority that just have a large voice.
No. Let's put some math to it very quickly with regards to how much money they lost, for example. So I want to just take a look at the Marvels. Let's take a look at the Marvels, because that can play a role in nostalgia, right? So Marvels, the budget was 275 million. For this movie to somewhat break even, they needed to make about $825 million to break even, with budgets in terms of marketing and blah, 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 blah. If we assume $20 per movie ticket, that means that Disney expected 41.250 million people to go see the movie. It grossed 210 million, which means only 10.5 million saw it. That means from their target audience of 41 million, they lost 75% of the target audience.
Yeah, but can you just also argue the fact that maybe people were just not interested in the Marvel story itself? Not the characters, but just people just were not interested in the story that was being told, because it wasn't a very fleshed out story. I'm just saying from devil's advocate point of view.
Yeah, but again, that works against nostalgia. If people start getting fed up with your stuff,
yeah, but it's not nostalgic. No, but what I'm just trying to say is the Marvels is not a nostalgic product. It's a new story they're telling. Right. Okay. Maybe based off the comics, but for majority of people of this generation probably don't pay attention to the comics as much as they used to 20, 30 years ago. And maybe those people that did watch the comics, they go see this movie. But for the average consumer, which is me and you, who they're probably trying to market to the most, didn't go because nobody cares like as much about Miss Marvel. And that's just the truth. Like even the comics, nobody pays attention that much. That's just listen, that's just reality of it. It's not all of them are going to succeed, right?
Yeah, but again,
but if you want to go off the nostalgic point of view, look at the Little Mermaid, one that, like you said, had a bad publicity to it because of who they casted as Ariel, and still
Yes.
turned a profit. Granted, a small profit, but still turned the profit.
I wouldn't say that that's a good thing, because the Beauty and the Beast that was done with Emma Watson a couple of years ago made 1.5 billion.
Okay, but
Little Mermaid made 500 million.
but we're
So you
talking.
lost a third of what you could have.
Yeah, but now you're talking about potential. What could have been potential earnings? That's a bit different.
The point.
No,
No,
but
but
that's
the point.
yeah, it's the point. But you're also talking about a completely different aspect. If my grandmother had wheels, she'd be a bike. But
No, but that's the thing. That's the thing. This is where I'm going to stop you right there.
but this
with
is where
nostalgia.
but
No,
this
I'm
is
going to stop you.
but
I'm
this
gonna
is what
stop you.
I want to
I'm
kind of
gonna
bring up
stop
your
you.
point. No, you could stop me
No.
right after I finish this point, because I want to validate your point where you're saying nostalgia. If you want to use the nostalgia reference, right? You use the Indiana Jones reference where they're bringing back Harrison Ford, who
I was going to get to
who
that.
is known to be Indiana Jones, who does have nostalgia to it, and did lose money. Now, that can be for a plethora of reasons. Maybe Indiana Jones just doesn't relate to this generation, right?
Right. Now, again, you said that, okay, it still turned a profit, The Little Mermaid, and nostalgia still. No, that's not the fact. Clearly, what you just showcased with The Little Mermaid is that nostalgia isn't working anymore. People are not going to the theaters the moment they're getting turned off with controversy. Because for a fact, Beauty and the Beast with Emma Watson raised $1.5 billion.
Okay, but when did Beauty and
When
the
you
Beast come
have-
out?
It came out, I'm going to Google it right now. But it came out way before Beauty and the Beast. It's a 2017 film.
Okay, 2017. And what did I just say not that long ago when I was saying 2019 people were going less and less and less and less to movies?
No, but hold on. That doesn't make no.
No,
hold on,
you
hold
can't.
on.
You can't.
You're
No,
not
you
gonna-
can't. You can't flip my
Yeah,
words and
no,
then
you
flip my.
can.
You can't. No, you can't flip the
No,
flips.
because hold on.
Don't flippity
Hold on.
flip the flip.
No, hold on. Because when you're spending on a movie like Beauty and the Beast, or you're spending on Little Mermaid 500, 600, 700 million dollars, right? You're expecting to at least make 1.4 to 1.5 billion. So it can be considered a success. When it doesn't break that, when it barely cracks even, that means that your little nostalgia machine isn't working to pull people in. That means your controversy is causing more damage to your nostalgia machine than good. So your nostalgia point goes out the fucking window.
You say potato, I say potato. At the end of the day, let's agree to
No.
disagree.
Done. No, I'm gonna stick on this point.
I just said let's agree to disagree and let's continue with the podcast. All I'm trying to say is that if people were going to the movies less and less and less and less since 2020 onward because of COVID and blah 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 and all this type of crap, and movie theaters were slowly closing little by little by little, isn't it expected for them to make less money in theaters composed to what they did in 2017?
Not to bomb on something like The Little Mermaid.
But wouldn't it
That's
have
what I'm
bombed?
trying to say.
Wouldn't it have bombed regardless because
No.
there's less showcases of it?
Oh,
Oh, listen. At the end of the day, Theo, we're going to agree to disagree,
nostalgia.
and me and you can have this conversation.
nostalgia, right?
Me and you can have this
It's
conversation.
nostalgia.
Me and you can have this
Nostalgia
conversation
should've
over a
brought
beer, and we can talk about it in
Nostalgia should've brought
public.
people- Nostalgia should have brought people in the window. Nostalgia should have brought them and sat them down, right? But nostalgia didn't do fuck all because controversy got in the way.
Maybe people just like bestiality more than they like fish. Do you ever think about that? Aquaman didn't do too well either, but let's agree to disagree. And one of these days we can have a beer. One of these days, like as if we never see each other, we can have a beer and we can talk about it a bit more. But I know you wanted to go on to talk on. You see, you had me all flustered. I can't even use my words anymore. I know you want to talk about something else, and you want to talk about ETFs and ESG growth. So, yeah.
I mean, look, from the perspective of this, like we talked about nostalgia, we talked about that, but at the end of the day, it's, why did Disney make this pivot to begin with, right? They didn't make it to actually be ESG friendly. They didn't make it to be inclusive. They did it for the money at the end of the day, because, and that's the thing that a lot of people don't know. If you look at the ESG rating system, it was invented in 2008, 2009 by the GRI, so the United Nations, essentially. And it was used as a way to essentially monitor and check for, malpractices in management, and slowly expanded to other, situations like environmental governance, how environmentally friendly is the company, how inclusive the company is. And so essentially what ESG is, it's a scoring system. The more you have in terms of positives, in terms of environmental friendliness and so on and so forth, the more points you get to your ESG score. Now, the thing is, we both know these companies. You work in banking, I've worked in finance. Companies like BlackRock and Vanguard are the kings of ETFs. So an ETF is a new way for people to invest in the stock market, essentially. And what ended up happening was that these companies that are managing $9 trillion plus each, roughly speaking, they saw a huge trend for ESGs, right? They saw a huge trend where a lot of people wanted to start investing in ESG investments. So what ended up happening? Bob Iger, who was the CEO of Disney, I think he took over, I don't remember, but I think in the 2010s, saw a good opportunity here and turned around and said, well, hold on a minute. If I can boost my ESG score, what's going to happen to Disney stock? It's going to be included in more ETFs. If it's included in more ETFs, that means more money is going to flow into my stock. If more money flows into my stock and there's limited supply of stock, obviously that's how it is, what's going to happen to the stock price? Well, it's going to balloon. How does Bob Iger make a lot of his money? He makes it through stock options. So really the entire movement was done in order to boost their ESG score rating, right? In order to guarantee that they're part of a lot of ETFs, to guarantee a lot of money flow into the company. And that's really what I think the hidden agenda behind all of this is. So I don't know your perspective on that, but I think that that's kind of what's happening behind it in terms of the mechanics of the stock market and the mechanics of how ETFs are, kind of rated and how ESG ratings work on ETFs. So in my genuine opinion, to kind of come up towards the end of somewhat this podcast, I don't think Disney is doing this for any good reason. They're doing it for profit. They're doing it just to boost their stock price. They don't really care about inclusivity. Inclusivity just seems to be profitable. But the moment inclusivity stops being profitable, they will pivot. That's my opinion on the whole matter.
Yeah, so let me just give me a second. I'll give you my opinion. So, mirror, mirror on the wall. Why is Disney such a corporate asshole? Yeah, like thank you for kind of stating the obvious. Yeah, of course they're in it to make money. That's the end of their that's their end goal. They're not in it to lose money. Like, what corporation literally sits there at board meetings and goes like, "Hey guys, listen, we lost another $1 billion this year. Some of you are gonna have to be cut. It's just the reality of it. But next year our goal is to lose another $1 billion. Yeah." Lose another $1 billion, guys. That's the game plan. No, like obviously they're in it to make money, and like you said with the ESG point of view, that's their end goal, right? Their end goal is to want to increase the stock, because that's how they get paid. They get paid through shares. Employees get paid through shares. Part of, well, I don't know if it still exists in the States, but they can still own portions of the company as part of a retirement plan. Like, it's not crazy to say that that's what they want to do, because at the end of the day, it's putting money in their pocket. But as we alluded to during this whole podcast, right, Disney's also going to lose money trying to make money. And that's just the reality of it, because they need to produce shows to increase the Disney Plus subscriber count, which is, if you look at where media is going, this is an interesting take for a whole new episode that we can do about modern media. But when you look at where modern media is going, it's pivoting more and more and more towards streaming services and less and less towards live TV. And again, I really want to touch on this in a whole other episode, but you see it with Netflix now, where they're pivoting towards live events. And we saw that in the Tom Brady roast. We were going to see that in the Jake Paul versus Mike Tyson fight. That got postponed for medical reasons. But we're seeing that. We're seeing them, the way they shelled out for WWE to have it on live TV. Like, you're seeing a new trend in how we consume media for most people. And I think Disney realizes that. And I think that's what they're trying to get to. And it wouldn't shock me if they start making live action shows available on that platform. If they somehow take Disney Plus and ESPN Plus and they start showing you NFL games on Disney Plus. Like, it's it's a matter of time before we get there. And I think Disney sees that and they're going to make that move to get there as quickly as possible. But like we alluded to, right? The whole point of why they have these type of studios is for Disney Plus to succeed, is to have content on Disney Plus. Because you have to remember when it came out, it was bare bones. It was bare bones. They had to create a lot of content to get on there. And over the last couple of years, that's what we saw. That's why they were pushing out movie after month after month after month after month. And yeah, a lot of them bombed because they were rushing the productions on them and because they didn't really flesh out the stories or flesh out the scripts. They were creating content, and me and you both know this for a fact that when you create content for the sake of creating content in a timely manner, it's not always the greatest content. You're choosing quantity over quality, and that hinders the product. And that's what Disney decided to do. They thought that was the motto, but ultimately it wasn't. We saw the shittiest shows produced in the world, like She-Hulk. We saw movies like Indiana Jones, like The Marvels, like Wish, like Haunted, that came out and that bombed commercially because they weren't well-rounded movies. They were just quantity for Disney to have on their platform so they can say, hey, come watch this. We have it here. It's exclusive here. Where now I think when you hear Bob Iger and you hear the guy from Marvel, I forgot his name, talk, they're like, listen, we maybe only want to do one movie a year, 2 movies a year, where previously was like once a month there was a movie. Where you hear them go like, no, we need to scale it back. And I think we're going to see now maybe Disney starting to focus more on the quality than the quantity, because the quantity they did over the last 4 years to put up on Disney Plus. And I think now you'll see them shift back a bit and start focusing on the quality of the movies coming out, the quality of the TV shows, more than just producing to get it out there or rushing to get it out there instead of taking their time more.
Yeah. And again, like you alluded to correctly, it's if your quality isn't good, who's going to subscribe to your services? If your products aren't like, who's going to subscribe to your services? No one. Very few people, right? So Disney knows that. And yeah, like they said, they're going to be focusing on making more quality films. So look, again, we don't know what can happen. Disney can make a sudden pivot next year and just start dishing out movies left, right, and center in every 2 weeks. Or it can take an entire year to make a movie. We don't really know. Would not sit on those boards where we're doing speculation. But at the end of the day, like we correctly alluded to, and like I think is the truth, is Disney doesn't do anything in terms of the goodwill of people. They do everything in terms of money. And that's kind of what I wanted this podcast to be about, is that this entire fight that's happening online in terms of, oh my God, she's a Latina being cast in a predominantly Caucasian role. She's an African American being, predominantly cast in the Caucasian role, is all, at the end of the day, Disney doesn't care. And the only time they will care is if the money stops coming in or if their business gets affected. As long as that doesn't get affected, then they're going to keep doing what they're doing. At the end of the day, it's money. It's money that matters. And that's kind of the point that I wanted to make throughout this entire podcast. So without further ado, I want to pass it to you for your closing thoughts before we close off the podcast.
Yeah, I mean, well, my closing thoughts are the same as yours, right? Disney will continue to produce everything and anything. That's what they do. And like you said, they're here to make money at the end of the day. And like somebody told me when I was going through college or going through CEGEP or going through university, was always Disney sells you on nostalgia. That's how they sell you. Whether it's through their Pixar, Disney Pixar, whether it's through Mickey Mouse, whether it's through Toy Story, whether it's through whatever it is, right? Hakuna Matata, no worries for the rest of your days. That's the slogan. Disney sells you on nostalgia. And they'll keep doing that, and they'll keep rehashing old movies if they don't have anything to fill in the gaps. That's what they do. And I think they'll continue to do that.
Yep. And again, I'm going to counter that because we're not going to get into the whole nostalgia debate again because we're going to have another 2 hours here going back and forth. But nostalgia, in my opinion, only works if people have fond memories and happy memories. Nostalgia eventually gets eroded if you piss off your audience or the audience isn't happy. That's my opinion on nostalgia, right? So, without any further ado, I do want to close it off. Guys, if you like the conversation, if you have any, do you like Disney? Currently, the stuff that are coming out from Disney. Do you have any shows that you enjoy that they're producing? Did any of the movies that flopped, did you end up liking them? Right? Or, do you find that, Disney, what movie is Disney doing the right moves? Share it. We're more than happy to discuss. I know Joe is sticking his mic in his mouth right now because he wants to say something.
God,
So
when you
what's
put
up?
it like that, are you Team Joe? Are you Team Theo? Are you Team Nostalgia? Are you Team
Profit.
are you Team Profit? Which one are you? But yes, guys. If you're listening to this podcast, recommend it to a friend. We're on every single streaming service that's known to mankind. Check us out on iTunes, Spotify, Google Podcast, Podbean. Jesus, so many. Samsung Podcasts. We're everywhere and anywhere. So come give us a listen to every 2 weeks. And thank you for listening. If you guys have been listening, and we hope to hear you again soon. My name's been Joe. The man to the right of me is my co-host, one of my best friends. This is where you should say his name, but he's not saying it. So
He forgot my name. I just wanted to stop. That's why I was waiting. I'm like, is he gonna say it? Is he gonna say it? He doesn't know my name. He knows me for so many years. How dare you? But yeah, guys, I'm Theo. I've been joined by Joe. Thank you so much for listening. I hope you enjoyed the podcast. We'll see you on the next one.
cha cha.